shit has just been fucking weird. Like, eh. Hey guys, my name's Liana Ruppert. Long time no see. It's been like a month. What's up? How you doing? Doing great. Good. I'm glad to hear it. New intro. First time not doing the psych out is I am a community manager over at Bungie for Destiny 2. And just to clarify, I don't want to be mixing wires. I don't want to be misconstrued of saying something that is factual for the game. So I am going to veer away from Destiny content on this channel. I just don't want to make shit complicated, I guess. And I don't want to, you know, do my weird fan theories that I like to do because they're really weird. And I don't want Reddit to suddenly be like, community manager confirmed. And so we're just not. And I also just don't want to talk about my job. That was kind of another reason why I left journalism, is I just don't want to be as, you know, with journalism, everybody expects you to tell them everything, every little detail, and I am not that much of a public person, so just cool that I don't have to be anywhere. So yeah, a lot of things. We're still here in Chicago. The house is under contract. Update, I guess. So unless something just goes terribly, horribly, the house is sold. Hopefully, we also signed the lease for our new place in Seattle. We signed it. We have the keys. We have no idea when we're actually moving. Because apparently the estimated moving costs are $30,000, and I don't know how that's physically possible. So we are in panic mode right now, trying to figure that out. We'll see, I guess. I guess. But it's kind of funny because this is the first time we're moving into an apartment. I haven't lived in an apartment in a long time. You know, obviously we owned our house because that's why we're selling it, and I'm having a lot of feelings because there's pros and cons to home ownership, and there's pros and cons to renting. And also just the cost of living in Seattle is nuts. Like, we were gonna rent a house because we have a bunch of animals. We rescue animals too. That's kind of our shtick. And I was like, I don't want to do that in an apartment. Cost of living, like our 2-bedroom apartment is more money than our mortgage for our 5-bedroom house in Chicago. The fuck? But I digress. But it's kind of funny because I've been like reminiscing on, you know, previous apartment experiences and what I like. Because when we first moved into this house, our heater went out, and Chicago winters can get as low as like negative 47 degrees. So that was not fun at all. And then also it can just, you know, home ownership, everything's your fault. Everything's your problem. You know, you get a lot of freedom to do whatever you want. Like, I did not mince any kind of self-control to hang up anything. The first thing we did, we painted our office black. There's just a lot of freedom, but now I'm learning when you sell, you have to kind of revert all of that, and it's a lot of work. Built my first deck, stained my first deck. It's just a lot. With apartments, you just be like, hey, this busted, come fix. Thank you. And then you can also move. Like, there's freedom. Like, I've had a lot of job opportunities in the last couple of years, but the relocation was a little bit too daunting, and so we just didn't. And with renting, yeah, you're gonna pay money to cut your lease short, but you can plan for that. Versus selling a house, it's a lot more complicated of a process. So I don't know, but it was kind of funny because I was thinking about my last apartment that I lived in was a fucking doozy. We lived in Ghent, Virginia, and I had a guy, my neighbor basically tried to kill me numerous times. So story time about that, I guess, is, so when I was in Ghent, I was in the process of transitioning out of the military. So for anybody that doesn't know, I was medically retired from the military for an injury that really hurt my brain. It resulted in an MS diagnosis, which is a whole other enigma in itself. We don't know if that's the cause or the symptom. Big thing. But at that point in time, I was either in a wheelchair or I couldn't walk without the assistance of a cane. So I was very vulnerable. I lived by myself. My now partner would visit every couple of weekends or so because we lived very far away. We were both active duty. And then at one point we were on totally opposite ends of the country. And so he wasn't always there. And it was me by myself with 2 dogs. And I had this neighbor move in. He moved in, I think, like a month after I did, and I thought he was cool at first. Like, we shot the shit. He's very old school drag queen, like very big into the gay scene, like gay bar scene, like the party scene. And I was like, oh, this reminded me of my old roommate. So I was like, we're gonna be best friends. I'm so excited because he just seemed really cool. And he was, but he sold like drugs. You could tell he was selling like coke and stuff out of the apartment because people would be coming in at like 3 o'clock in the morning. They would hand it off in the middle of the hallway. He was just very loud and very inconsiderate, which again, fine. I got headphones. It's all good. Where it changed is Chu, who was my partner, ordered a new bank card, and he was just gonna have it sent to my apartment because he took leave, so he was gonna stay 2 weeks with me. So he's like, I'll just get it sent there, and then that way I don't have to worry about it. And then we kept waiting, and it never showed up. And then all of a sudden he looked at his bank account, and there was like over $1,000 of charges on his new card. And we didn't know what happened. We were like, what the fuck? So we started investigating, putting our sleuth hats on, and it was a bunch of Ubers to our apartment. Well, there's only one person in the apartment that didn't have a car, and that was my new neighbor. And the Ubers kept taking him to a bar called Hershey, which is also coincidentally my neighbor's favorite gay bar. The bar he talks about religiously and talked about being his home away from home. It's not really hard to connect the dots. So I went over there and I was trying to be as unassuming as possible. Again, I can barely walk. I'm very vulnerable. I was not in a good position to be in conflict. So I just try to keep it chill. Like I was like, oh man, I think somebody grabbed our card by mistake. Did you happen to get any of our mail? Like, did you, trying to make it seem like maybe he got our mail delivered to him versus breaking into our box, because our mailbox did get broken into as well. And he's like, no, that's horrible. And he was like showing me his wallet. But I saw him like as he was showing me his wallet, he like took something out and then tucked it behind his hand. And I kind of gave him a look like, didn't say anything, but just giving him a look like, hey, I saw what you just did. Here's your chance to come clean. And he didn't. So I was like, okay, man, that sucks, but hopefully, I was hoping to find, maybe it just got delivered by mistake and I could, figure out something and not have to involve the police, but it looks like we're gonna have to involve the police. That sucks. Kind of giving him another outlet, like, oh no, here it is, da-da-da. The dude was standing firm. So we had the cops investigate. They had him on camera at the bar using the card, but they weren't pressing charges. Like they weren't letting us press charges, even though we literally had proof that he stole this money. Weird, right? Like you would think, like the cops even told us, like, yeah, we have visual proof. Here's this. Here's the timestamp with his receipt. Here are the last 4 digits of the card. They matched the last 4 digits of the card that was stolen. So like it's a little suspicious, right? Suspicious. But we couldn't do anything. We asked. We were like, well, we don't want to press charges, but we need to get that money back because, right at that point, the bank was doing all they could to recoup the money, but they also have to verify that those purchases weren't made by us. So anyways, it was quiet for the rest of the week. Like nothing went weird. The neighbor was still waving at us. Everything was copacetic. We thought it was fine. And then Chu left, and the very next day at like 3 in the morning, I heard just crashing. And I look through my like little peephole, and I'm watching him rip open his own door. And it's just him. And I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? And he's like taking like a bat, and he's like hitting the door handle, and he's like hitting the side, and he's just racking shit up. And I'm like, what is going on? And so I called the neighbor that lived upstairs. I was like, hey, do you know what's going on? He goes, no, I'm kind of honestly too scared to go down and check. 'Cause he was like, the guy upstairs was a pothead, and he was very like non-confrontational. I don't want to fight. I don't want to know any of this stuff. Nay, I don't want any to do with that drama. So we kind of just wrote it out. And then the next day, my landlord came to my apartment. Again, I can't open the door. So I left my door unlocked, and I was like, come in. And she came in. She can tell I can't move. She can tell I'm I'm struggling to get on the cane to get up to like, greet her. And she goes, hey, do you know what happened with so-and-so? And that was the neighbor. And I was like, no, I heard like crashing last night, but I just figured maybe he was renovating. Is that a thing in apartments? And she goes, no, he actually claims, and she was very careful to say claims and alleged, because she knew. He claims you broke into his apartment at 3 o'clock in the morning. You kicked open his door, and that's why the door is open. And you broke his arm and broke his nose. He was wearing a sling, but no hospital documentation, and his nose looked absolutely fine. And she goes, I wanted to talk to you because I just don't understand how this is possible because you can't really walk. So how did you hire somebody? Like, you could tell in her voice that she just can't even believe she's having this conversation, that this is ridiculous. And I was like, no. And I was like, but he said it was me. And she was like, yeah, he made a very big point about saying you were telling him, do you know who I am? I'm the fucking military, which is not something I would ever say in a million years. And she even said that too. She goes, that just didn't sound like something you would say. I've seen you get protective of people and you've never said that. In fact, you go to great lengths to hide that you're in the military a lot. Like, I used to wear like colored wigs and things like that. So it was just weird. So then a couple days pass, and my dogs have really bad social anxiety if they feel like somebody's getting in. And my upstairs neighbor is like, hey, your dog's like howling really bad, like howling, like sounds terrified. I'm gonna go check. Do you mind if I go downstairs and check it out? And I was like, yeah, I'm at work. I'm at the shipyard. Like, let me see if I can get an Uber home. And as I'm driving home, my neighbor was like, he was like banging on your door with a butcher knife, saying he was gonna kill your dogs if they didn't shut the fuck up. I was like, what? So I'm like telling the Uber, like, we gotta go now, like, go drive faster, we gotta, I don't know what's going on. It's a cheap ass apartment, you know, like they could, it's not hard to break that open door. Apparently it's not that hard either if you think somebody with a cane can do it, but I digress. So I get there, and as I'm dropping off, I'm struggling to get my cane. There's 3 steps to get up to the door. I'm struggling to get up. He opens the door and he just slams me up against the door, and he goes, you did this to me, and just making this huge scene about how I beat him up. Which, mind you, he's holding me against the door with his broken arm. As somebody who's broken bones before, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I'm still in uniform, and there's people driving down the street that are kind of stopping to see like what's going on, but pointing out that nobody helped, which is weird. Anytime I've ever seen anything suspicious like that, I would always stop. I don't care. I'm not gonna let somebody be in danger. Anyways, so I kind of go dead, and I'm like, sir, I have nothing against you. You know damn well I never touched you. I have been nothing but respectful to you, even knowing when you stole our property, and I still gave you the benefit of doubt. I did not seek to press charges. I don't know how you circumvented the cops, but you will not lay a hand on me again. If you do, I will have you arrested. He laughs, and he says, we'll see. So then I immediately called the landlord, and I was like, hey, you know, what do I do here? What's going on? And she goes, call the cops. So I called the cops. They came up. The sheriff was like, do you have a weapon? And I said, yes. And he goes, good, shoot to kill. And I was like, why? And he goes, here's his background. The dude had a background of arson, of assault and battery, robbery, just this whole, I don't know how he passed the background check to move in, which it makes me feel like they're just pocketing the money for background checks and not actually doing them, because that was a list, and it was very obvious that he fled to Virginia from where he was because of that list of shit. And they were like, you can't do anything outside, but if he breaks into your apartment, don't shoot to wound, shoot to kill. It's not something you want to hear, especially when you live alone and you're not fully bodied. So I'm kind of freaking out. I call my landlord again. I tell her what he said. The cop said they had a patrol guy that would like drive by every, couple hours or so just to make sure everything was okay. It seemed to die down a little bit. She gave him a warning. And what we did is another unit opened up in the build. It's a very small building because Virginia is the historical, like, I don't know, hipster area. So it was a small building, but it turned out that the girl on the far right was moving out. So she was like, what I want to do is I want to move you into that one, so at least you guys aren't right across from each other. And maybe out of sight, out of mind might help the situation. So we move over. Unfortunately, it's the same key that gets into both doors, so he could still come in, but it wasn't common knowledge of that. So we were hoping he didn't know, and he didn't know, which was good. But this is when he actually like really got messed up. So he got a warning. She was like, you know, if you harass her again or anybody else in the building, I'm gonna have to evict you. He said it was bullshit, that it was a hate crime against him. Whatever. So, okay, during this time too, I was going through radiation. I was very sick a lot. And also sometimes if I have a seizure, I would have a seizure, it would like knock me out. Like during this time I was having seizures almost weekly. So I think what happened is I just had a seizure and I slept through it, because that has happened before. But my upstairs neighbor, the next day, there were cops, and my landlord was there, and his car and his little moped was gone, because he ended up getting a little moped. I was like, what's going on? He goes, my upstairs neighbor comes down and he's like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. What's going on? He goes, he tried breaking your apartment last night. He was like banging on your window, telling you to open the door, bitch, open the door, and like screaming at me. And he goes, when you didn't open the door, he tried sneaking into your bathroom window, which is weird because it's on the back part of the building, so I guess stealth-wise. But it's a small window, and he's not the smallest guy, so I don't really know what his plan of action was there. But like, he was saying that he was like slamming on the door, the dogs were barked. I don't know how I slept through all of that, but it was enough where he even called the landlord. The landlord came out. She had him escorted away. She evicted him, but he was not allowed to come to the apartment. She had movers come out and basically throw his shit out. And it was insane, because after that, he stalked me a lot. So I don't know where he went after that. I don't know where he lived, but he would park in front of my apartment every day. And then eventually he would just start walking, because when we got to the point where if anybody saw the moped, we would report it, because that's what we were supposed to do. It was just wild. He was weird. I mean, obviously, he was selling drugs. I don't know if he took drugs. Something was wrong with him. He had a record, so I know it couldn't have just been me. But it's weird. And I was Chu and I were talking about that when we were like, oh man, it's gonna be so interesting how we adjust back to apartment life, because we've been so spoiled having our own place where we could be as loud, we could blast music, we could play games as loud as we wanted, we could do whatever. It's gonna be weird adjusting that. And one of our dogs is disabled, and so she has to permanently wear a brace on her leg so she can walk. And it's very loud, and then we're in an upstairs unit, and I'm like, oh man, we're gonna have to talk to our neighbors downstairs and let them know what's going on, and see if if it's bothering them too much, if there's something else we can do. But it was funny, just because we were talking about that, we were like, man, I hope we don't have to go through that again, because that was nuts. I want to do that. But I am excited to move to Seattle. A lot of my friends are there. I love the vibe there. I'm from New Orleans originally, and I just really miss that vibe of New Orleans. And Seattle has a very similar feeling to it, so I'm really excited about that. And I've been loving my teams. Everybody I talk to, I'm in love with. I'm really happy right now. This is the first time in my career I don't feel like I have to prove myself. I'm not the only woman on the team. It's not a male-dominated team. Which is not a bad thing if there is. I've worked in good male-dominated teams before, but it just is nice, because this industry is very much in its infancy in a lot of ways in terms of how equality is done. And we're seeing that now with the conversation with COVID, of opening up remote opportunities, which is great for people that have any sort of disabilities that might prohibit them from moving. And I think that's really cool to have those conversations and make gaming as inclusive as possible, both in the consumer side and the business side. And so I'm really stoked. I just met the new girl today as well, and she was amazing. I love her, and Dylan and Cosmo, and just everybody is so amazing. Like, I can't just speak to, I just want to rave about how amazing Bungie has been, and going out of their way to make sure I'm comfortable and happy and fulfilled. And just hearing all of the people in different meetings, just the love they have for the game and the love they have for the community is just, even in spite of how volatile communities can be sometimes, there's just so much love there, and that's what I wanted. That's what I was looking for. So I'm stoked, because that's another reason I wanted to go studio side too, because with journalism, we weren't really allowed to communicate with the community at all. It's more about them communicating to us because we're public figures. And I just always felt like that was weird. and uncomfortable, and I don't want to talk at you. I want to talk to you, with you, and that was just never really the case with journalism in my experience. And I have not worked in every single journalist outlet, so that's not to say that's how it is everywhere. But that was the mass majority. And that's, you know, and it's all about you. It's all about your promotion and what do you bring, and are you the best journalist? Are you the most likable? Are you the funniest? Do you have the best jokes? You know, that was always about, like, you have to be the best. And here, it's not about that. It's about the game, and it's about making something truly inspiring and something you're proud of. And I'm so proud of everybody I work with and proud to work alongside them, and I think this is really cool. That was a lot of gushiness my part. My plans for this video was to talk about Ubisoft and the potential Tom Clancy Splinter Cell game, but that's kind of a wash, so maybe that'll be the next video. I need to like do outlines, you guys, because I go off topic so much. Help me. But maybe next time. If that's something, basically the gist was I don't want a new Splinter Cell at this point until Ubisoft gets back on track. I have reasons for that, even though Splinter Cell was one of my favorite games. I don't want to see it right now and how they're modeling their titles going forward. But that's a really long, complicated conversation, and we're already at 23 minutes, so I just, maybe next time. But I also wanted to see you guys. What do you guys want? Spooky stories. I got more ghost stories. We actually have one since we've been working on the house. Yeah. What games do you want to hear talked about? I have to be very careful about how I talk about games too, because I don't want anyone that works at the studios to be like, oh, she thinks Bungie's so much better than us, because that's not the case. I want to keep the content like how I did when I was a journalist, but I want to be in respect of I'm not a journalist anymore, and I am now on the studio side. So we're gonna do a little bit of experimentation here. You know, it's fucking weird, man. It's weird, but we'll see. I'm really excited for the future. I'm excited to see how we model the new place and what happens next. And I'm really, for the first time in a long time, I'm just very content. And I think I'm on a good spot and on a good path, and this is great, and I can't wait to share more with you guys. And it's great. It's great. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, the YouTuber thing, the like, the bell, ding 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 notifications, subscribe. Thank you guys for following me. If you do follow me, I don't really know why, because I'm not cool and I don't shut up, but I appreciate you being here anyway, in spite of all that. You're great. You're a gem. And yeah, let me know what you guys want to see in the future. And until then, I will catch you guys next time. Bye.